What do you guys think of motivation for game development? Um, I know there was so question of the day I like to do is typically there's been a lot of like talk about motivation. I know Code Monkey mentioned something about self-discipline. Um, for I think it depends. Like there's some game developers, right? Like if you're doing it as a hobby, right, and it's nothing you don't want to take it too seriously, you just want to make a fun game and that's it, then I think motivation is a good thing. I think you should use motivation. It shouldn't matter how long it takes for you to get complete your game. You should want to do it whenever you feel ready. Because the idea is, if you try to do a game that you're not really trying to do, like making a new career out of it, so self-discipline is kind of like out the door. You don't really need self-discipline unless if it's going to be a career, right? If you're trying to make game development into a career, then I would say, yeah, definitely go with self-discipline. But if it's just gonna be like a dream game that you just want to do and then you want to just, maybe it sells good, maybe it doesn't, right? You kind of have your kind of like you need your inspiration for it, right? You need your motivation, your inspiration. And I think a lot of times what it is a lot of game devs feel like they don't have that motivation. I think what it is they're not in the moment, right? Maybe they're in a job that they don't like, right? And they're thinking, oh wow, if I make this game, it's gonna be rich, that sort of thing. But it's not really a good vibe to go with. You should just think, oh, I should just make this game and then just see how well it does. Because you never know, right? It could be a popular game. Maybe it's not too big of a game. It could become something big, but it really depends. It depends really on you. I think if you're in a job that you don't like, I think you should look for another job first of all, right? And just see from there. But don't do it like, your $1 million ticket sort of thing when you're trying to make a game. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just do this and be rich. No, just do it, still do it, get the motivation you need, right? The inspiration. And then from there, just take it and then just see where you kind of like stand off. That sort of thing is, I think that would be the best thing, right? Even if the game doesn't do well, at least you can say, oh wow, I made my dream game now, right? I can relax, I don't have to worry about it. That sort of thing is the perfect way of going, right? That's, I think, the best thing you can do. So then that way you don't feel as burned out, you get the inspiration, motivation that you need, and then you're able to do stuff. That's my idea when it comes to motivation. I think I think a lot of game devs, especially now, it's a lot easier to make games. Right? There's so many like out there, so many engines that are really easy. You don't need too much code. There's some like Unity, of course, that you could use code, but there's some that, require hardly any code, or you don't even need to draw too well, and you're able to make something out of it. Like having discipline is just something done can be tough. Sometimes motivation can be ruts, but pushing too hard can burn you out. Yeah, it can actually. You know what? When you push too hard, you burn out quickly, right? Especially if you have kind of like this focused mindset, you want to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. But after a while, you just like you get done, you get burned out with the game. You want to do something else, right? I know a lot of guys like you guys see on YouTube, right? When you go on YouTube and you go, oh, this guy, I was like, oh, I'm making this dream game of mine, and then maybe 12 months or maybe a month or whatever, they'll eventually say, oh, I'm quitting my game, and you go, oh, what happened? This is such a cool game. It happens. You get burned out of it, you get tired, right? You get kind of like, I think it's more you lose the momentum of it, because there are some good cool games. There's some really good ones that I've seen where they do game devlogs, they do all kinds of things. But what it is too is they're kind of just filling out, you know, all their sections. They're trying to do everything. They're trying to do the marketing. They're trying to do everything from it, right? And then you kind of get overwhelmed too. And especially if you have a Kickstarter, it's even more tiring because then You don't want to be in one of those like what's it called? The videos where it's like the Kickstarter scammers and those sort of things. You want to do well, you want to do really well. And that's even more pressure there. Or just feeling like you haven't accomplished much. Yes, sometimes you feel like that, like where you have your game, you have good momentum, like in the first month or 2 months, right? You got everything done, you have your level design, you have your buns ready. But after a while, you start making your level and you go, you know what? It's just kind of like I'm doing the boring stuff, right? I'm not having fun anymore doing my game. And that happens. Sometimes, you have this cool dream game, you make it, you make 2 levels, 3 levels, you make a couple enemies, but eventually you don't want to do it anymore. You get burnt out from it. And I think a lot of times people kind of like set really high milestones. I think the best way to go in is like, how fast can I make my game? It could be a dream game, right? Can I make my game and then just have it finished by a certain time frame? In other words, if I can't set goal A, at least I can set like a minor goal, right? Kind of like cut it in half. Small game is tough for lots of people. Yeah, less of detail for large projects, even more commitment. Yeah, I think large projects can be a lot more commitment. They require, I think, more emphasis, more detail to everything. Because you want to have everything, right? You want to have the inventory, you want to have the upgrades, you want to have everything. Kind of like how Stardew Valley has, right? Everybody talks about Stardew Valley. But Stardew Valley, it's practically, if you think about it, it's like maybe 10 mini games combined into one. If you think about it, there's literally like 10 mini games you can do. There's mining, there's fishing, right? There's combat, there's arcades, there's crafting. There's a lot of things that go into Stardew Valley. Technically, you can break out a section of Stardew Valley, and just make that into a mini game. And nothing wrong with that. There's nothing, right? You can make a mini game out of it. They need more of everything. You need more of everything, exactly. Right? You need to have the fishing, and the fishing needs to be correct, and you have to have the best fish, and you need to have like certain upgrades. And speaking of Stardew Valley, a fishing game would be nice. Like if you take the same implementation of Stardew Valley, make a fishing game like that, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be a good game, actually. Right? Even if it's like a mini game, that would be actually a good one. Trigger pad 1. That's sort of thing is what I'm saying, right? I think sometimes you just start going through the momentum and then you realize, oh, this is really gonna be a really hard project sort of thing. And and speaking of, what if you combine all your mini games that you do, for example, game jams, right? Kind of like how we're doing now. Get all your game jams together and putting it all into one game. That would be cool, right? That's pretty much what I did a couple of my games. I just make a couple game jams and then just put them together to make a bigger game, like a bigger game jam. Because I already know the scripts, right? I already know it works. So I don't have to really do anything from the beginning. I can just copy and paste, right? Kind of like how I'm doing now. I can just go here, go into my previous project or previous projects that I've done, kind of like these, and then just copy and paste them, right? I don't have to think too much about, or oh shoot, I need to go in here and then find my project and redo the code and figure it out and maybe ask ChatGPT, oh, how do I do this? Right? And maybe ChatGPT can give you the right answers, but sometimes, right, it's not always accurate. So, and that was my 2 cents on motivation and what's called and self-discipline. That's what I think, right? I think it's good to have it, but I think it's also kind of like setting your own milestones, right? Not going too far, not going too small either, but it's like a in between where you can finish something and you're comfortable with in a 3 months or even a month, and then you can start there.